Hello, YouTube. 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 Hello, YouTube. Today's interview is with a guy named Tempus Fugitive.
That one looks like the Rorschach mask from Watchmen. A four-eyed wolf. A level out of Super Mario. A horrifically evil Christmas tree. A twat.
Alright, I've got a couple of deep ones for you. You're a smart, articulate guy. And you certainly read the news or watch the television or whatever. I want to know what your opinion is of your healthcare system. There's a lot of us over here in the States battling back and forth about this whole healthcare thing, and one of the main cruxes of the right-wing argument is that there will be lines to wait in, and that the British healthcare system is largely, though not entirely, basically a failure. That we're used to top-notch care and all that sort of thing, and then once we go to a system like yours, that we will no longer receive those things. So my question is, do you experience those lines, and is it what they make it out to be? Because I've got friends from Canada and from France, and some agree with what we're saying and some don't. What do you think?
Well, I'm kind of biased. I think the NHS is fantastic. I think it's one of the best things about Britain. And there are a lot of bad things about Britain. But I think this is one of the best. Because I've had quite a lot of experience with the NHS system over here. And it strikes me that people do complain about the little things. I mean, obviously there are big problems. Yes, there are waiting lists for things like transplants. Yes, the queue in A&E, or the emergency room as you'd call it, is immense sometimes. I have had cases where, once when I broke my wrist, I was in there for about, I think, 4.5 hours, something like that. Now, luckily it wasn't actually that painful, but if there is a point where, you are in quite a lot of pain, it can be quite difficult. Yes, it is difficult to see a GP sometimes. But then again, if you are very ill, they do tend to push you to the front. It does have that system whereby if you're not as ill as all that, you're going to have to wait a little while. If you're extremely ill, we'll get you sorted right away. And there is always the added bonus that if something happens that is a genuine emergency, if you had a heart attack or a stroke or something, like a grand mal or even a petit mal, you would have an ambulance, you would be in the hospital, you would be treated immediately. And when you wake up, you don't have to worry about somebody shoving a bill in your face. So it is especially useful for emergencies like that, for quite major things. But we have got a slight problem at the moment with organ donations. That organ donations have actually gone up. People are donating more, but the demand has rapidly increased as well. So yes, there are problems there, but as I say, the point is you can have any of these things done and it's free to all intents and purposes. Obviously you're paying through tax, but it is essentially free, and you don't have that. Not at the moment anyway. And I think the closer you get to our model of it is socialised healthcare. That's what I know it's a very frightening thing in America, socialism, But it is essentially socialised healthcare, and the closer you get to that, the better you'll be for it. Yes, you will have some problems with the waiting lists, because obviously those who can't afford the treatment now in America don't actually get involved in the queues. They, if they can't afford it, they're not going to opt in to try and get operations and treatment. But if it was free, everybody who needed it would obviously go for it, which is why our queues are so long. But I think now, I think I'm right in saying that you've got some sort of socialised healthcare on the table with the Senate at the moment. I'm not sure exactly how the bill looks at the moment, but you've got like a public option going on, I think, whereby if a state wants to have government-run insurance, they can have that. Obviously, if the bill passes, which I think is fine. That's excellent. It's not quite what we've got, but it's close. I mean, it's close enough. It's essentially saying to underprivileged families, you can have insurance, you can have healthcare insurance even if your job doesn't provide it or you can't afford it, through a reputable insurer. So overall, I think the NHS is great. Plus, I am biased in the sense that Nye Bevan, the man who created the National Health Service, was Welsh, so I'm obviously going to say it's great.
I've been going on about United States stuff all interview here, so I'll switch gears. I wanted to know what issues face you as a UK citizen. Here I've already mentioned healthcare and all this other shit. Now it's like a really big time of change for America, and from where I stand, that change is really kind of shitty. But what issues are you facing?
That's a big one. We've got quite a few problems. There are some really small problems that don't really affect anybody. Obviously, they're niche. But the major problems we have, obviously there's the global problems like recession. A lot of people are finding it difficult to get work at the moment, which is a problem for everybody, really. So there is that unemployment problem, especially if you're in manufacturing or those sort of lines of work, because we've sold most of our manufacturing off to foreign investors, which is not a good move. It's also not going to be a particularly good time for the public sector either, because I think the government deficit or the country's deficit is so big, the debt we've got, it's going to have to be cut down through tightening the belt on government spending, which is obviously going to affect things like health, which is one of the problems with the NHS because it's funded by the taxpayer. I think they might ring-fence that to a certain degree. They might say, we will have to have this amount spent on the NHS whether we like it or not, and if we have to cut back a lot more on other services, that's fine, but the NHS is so important that we have to ring-fence certain spending on that. Police are going to have problems, and teachers I think are going to be out of all the public sector workers, civil servants in the teaching profession are going to have the biggest problem. So we have that. We also have the hilarious problem of binge drinking, which we've had for decades now. There isn't a major city in the UK you can walk through without basically being either accosted or attacked by yobs, junkies, thugs, tramps, chavs, whatever you want to call them. You will have some problem of a Friday night if you're going out for a drink in one of these larger cities like sort of Birmingham or Cardiff. So, but that is a national stereotype. We've always had that. We've always been particularly good at drinking, and we have to keep these traditions alive.